What? The Spear Danes in days gone by, and the kings who ruled them, had courage and greatness. We have heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. There was Shield Chieftain, scourge of many tribes, the record mead benches, rampaging among foes. Afterwards a boy-child was born to Shield, a cub in the yard, a comfort sent by God to that nation. And a young prince must be prudent like that, giving freely while his father lives, so that afterwards in an age when fighting starts, steadfast companions will stand by him and hold the line. Shield was still thriving when his time came, and he crossed over into the Lord's keeping. Far-fetched treasures were piled upon him, and precious gear. I never heard before of a ship so well furbished, with battle tackle, bladed weapons, and coats of mail. The massed treasure was loaded on top of him. It would travel far on out into the ocean's sway. Then it fell to Beowulf to keep the forts. And then his heir, the great half-Dane, held sway for as long as he lived, their elder and warlord. He was 4 times a father, their fighter prince. One by one they entered the world. Hrothgar, Hrothgar, the good Helga, and a daughter, I have heard, who was Ornella's queen, a balm in bed to the battle-scarred Swede. The fortunes of war favoured Hrothgar. Friends and kinsmen flocked to his ranks, young followers, a force that grew to be a mighty army, so his mind turned to hall-building. He handed down orders for men to work on great mead hall, meant to be a wonder to the world forever. It would be his throne room, and there he would dispense his God-given goods to young and old, but not the common land or people's lives. Heorot was the name he had settled on it, whose utterance was law. Nor did he renege, but doled out rings and torques at the table. The hall towered, its gables wide and high, and awaiting a barbarous burning. Then a powerful demon, a prowler through the dark, nursed a hard grievance. It harrowed him to hear the din of the loud banquet every day in the hall, the harp being struck, and the clear song of a skilled poet telling with mastery of man's beginnings, how the Almighty had made the earth a gleaming plain girdled with waters. So times were pleasant for the people there, until finally one, a fiend out of hell, began to work his evil on the world. Grendel was the name of this grim demon, haunting the marches, marauding round the heath and desolate fens. He had dwelt for time in misery among the banished monsters, Cain's clan, whom the Creator had outlawed and condemned as outcasts. So, after nightfall, Grendel set out for the lofty house, to see how the ring Danes were settling into after their drink, and there he came upon them, a company of bests sleeping from their feasting, insensible to pain and human sorrow. Suddenly then, the god-cursed brute was creating havoc. Greedy and grim, he grabbed 30 men from their resting places and rushed to his lair, flushed up and inflamed from the raid, blundering back with the butchered corpses. Their mighty prince, the storied leader, sat stricken and helpless, humiliated by the loss of his guard, bewildered and stunned, staring aghast at the demon's trail in deep distress. So Grendel ruled in defiance of right, one against all, until the greatest house in the world stood empty, a deserted wallstead. For 12 winters, seasons of woe, the Lord of the Shielding suffered under his load of sorrow. And so, before long, the news was known over the whole world. So Grendel waged his lonely war, inflicting constant cruelties on the people, atrocious hurt. He took over Heorot, haunted that glittering hall after dark, but the throne itself, the treasure seat, he was kept from approaching. He was the Lord's outcast. So that troubled time continued, woe that never stopped, steady affliction for Halfdane's son, too hard an ordeal. There was panic after dark, people endured raids in the night, riven by the terror. When he heard about Grendel, Hygelac Thane was on home ground over in Geatland. There was no one else like him alive. In his day, he was the mightiest man on earth, high-born and powerful. Nobody tried to keep him from going, no elder denied him, dear as he was to them. Instead, they inspected omens and spurred his ambition to go, whilst he moved about like the leader he was, enlisting men, the best he could find. With 14 others, the warrior barrowed the boat as captain, a canny pilot among coast and currents. With the watchman on the wall, the shielding's lookout, whose job it was to guard the sea cliffs, saw shields glittering on the gangplank and battle equipment being unloaded. He had to find out who and what the arrivals were. So he rowed to the shore, this horseman of Hrothgar's, and challenged them in formal terms, flourishing his spear. "What kind of men are you who arrive rigged out for combat in coats of mail, sailing here over the sea lands in your steep-hulled boat? I have been stationed as lookout on the coast for a long time. I say it again, the sooner you tell where you come from and why, the better." The leader of the troop unlocked his ward-hoard. The distinguished one delivered the answer. "We belong by birth to the Geat people and owe allegiance to Lord Hygelac. We have arrived here on great errand to the Lord of the Danes. I believe, therefore, there should be nothing hidden or withheld between us. I can show the wise Hrothgar a way to defeat his enemy and find respite, if any respite is to reach him ever." Undaunted, sitting astride his horse, the coast guard answered, "Anyone with gumption and a sharp mind will take the measure of two things, what's said and what's done. I believe what you have told me, that you are a troop loyal to our king. So come ahead with your arms and your gear, and I will guide you." They marched in step, hurrying on till the timbers hall rose before them, radiant with gold. So their gallant escort guided them to that dazzling stronghold and indicated the shortest way to it. The noble warrior wheeled on his horse and spoke these words, "It is time for me to go. May the Almighty Father keep you and in his kindness watch over your exploits." So they duly arrived in their grim war-graith and gear at the hall, and, weary from the sea, stacked wide shields of the toughest hardwood against the wall, then collapsed on the benches. Battle dress and weapons clashed. At the door of the hall, Hrothgar duly delivered this message. "My lord, the conquering king of the Danes, bids me announce that he knows your ancestry, also that he welcomes you to Heorot and salutes your arrival from across the sea." The hero arose, surrounded closely by his powerful thanes, and standing on the hearth and webbed links that the smith had woven, the fine forged mesh of his gleaming mail shirt, resolute in helmet, Beowulf spoke. "Greetings, Hrothgar. I am Hygelac's kinsman, one of his hall troop. When I was younger, I had great triumphs. The news of Grendel, hard to ignore, reached me at home. Sailors brought stories of the plight you suffer in this legendary hall, how it lies deserted, empty and useless, once the evening light hides itself under heaven's dome. Now I mean to be a match for Grendel, settle the outcome in single combat. If Grendel wins, it will be a gruesome day. He will glut himself on the Geats in the war hall, swoop without fear on the flower of manhood as on others before." Hrothgar, the helmet of shielding, spoke. "Beowulf, my friend, you have traveled here to favor us with help and to fight for us. Now, take your place at the table, relish the triumph of our heroes to your heart's content." Then a bench was cleared in that banquet hall so that the Geats could have room to be together, and the party sat, proud in their bearing, strong and stalwart. From there he crouched at the king's feet. Unferth, a son of Eglaf, spoke contrary words. "Are you the Beowulf who took on Breca in a swimming match on the open sea, risking the water just to prove that you could win? The ocean swayed, winter went wild in the waves, but you vied for 7 nights, and then he outswam you, came ashore the stronger contender. So Breca made good his boast upon you, and was proved right. No matter, therefore, how you may have fared in every bout and battle until now, this time you'll be worsted. No one has ever outlasted an entire night against Grendel." Beowulf, Ecgtheow's son, replied, "Well, friend Unferth, you have had your say about Breca and me. But the truth is this. When the going was heavy in those high waves, I was the strongest swimmer of all. Time and time again, foul things attacked me, lurking and stalking, but I lashed out, gave as good as I got with my sword. Now, I cannot recall any fight you entered on Firth that bears comparison. I don't boast when I say that neither you nor Brecco is ever much celebrated for swordsmanship or for facing dangers on the field of battle. You killed your own kith and kin, so for all of your cleverness and quick tongue you will suffer damnation in the depths of hell. Never, since my hand could hold a shield, have I entrusted or given control of the Dame's Hall to anyone but you. Ward and guard against it. When it comes to fighting, I count myself as dangerous as any day as Grendel. No weapons, therefore, for either this night. Unarmed he shall face me, if face me he dares. Then down the brave man lay with his bolster under his head and his company of sea rovers at rest beside him. Through the strength of one they all prevailed. They would crush their enemy and come through in triumph and gladness.